So keeping with the horror theme, I guess.
Keeping with the dead.
Keeping with the dead, I finished Dead Cells. Fuck, no. Dead Space.
God.
No, sorry.
You finished?
Yeah,
Dead
after
Space.
finishing Dredge, I was just like, cool, we bought this like Dead Space remake a while back. Haven't really had time to play it. Just gonna jump in. I think it might have had a bigger impact on me had I not replayed the entire trilogy just last year, like last year, Jan. I just got into like playing all of them again, and I played Dead Space 3 for the first time and really kind of enjoyed it. This remake is really good. It is very, very, very faithful to the first game in a way that makes you question your memory of the first game, which is I found really interesting because there were a lot of times where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And then I think about it. I'm like, that's impossible that I remember this because this mechanic didn't exist in the first game. Like
That's
certain boss
horror.
fights in like 0G were completely different because, well, in the first game, you didn't have free motion in 0G. You could just bounce between points. In this one, you have the same 360-degree range of motion as the sequels. So they had to re-engineer a lot of the boss fights. But they're so familiar in a way that it feels like this is how I remember playing them, even though I know for a fact that's not how they actually are.
Yeah.
Which I think is the beauty of this remake is it delivers on your completely unrealistic memories of what Dead Space was. And yeah, I think it just goes to show that the fundamental design elements of a game from 2009, I think it is.
Yeah.
They hold up so strongly today. There was a thread on Twitter of someone making a very good point where they were like, it's interesting that all of the biggest games of this year have been remakes of older games. And it's almost a signal to like the industry or game developers that there is a fundamental style of game that
That's
no longer
missing,
exists.
or
Yeah. The quintessential like single player game without any nonsense, without any like overbearing RPG elements, because I think a lot of single player games have that now. Like single player games have to be this mishmash of like
everything,
all these options and upgrades and equipment and this and that. And you've got games like Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake. What was the other one that was remade?
Final Fantasy.
Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime. They're just like straightforward. Like, this is a single player game. In Dead Space, yes, you upgrade your guns, but it's so limited. It's like I'm just upgrading a little bit of damage here.
It's not like
exactly.
Hey, you unlocked skill points. Now you can give Isaac 5% more move speed.
Exactly. It's just like, oh, if you unlock this node, you're going to get 5 points more damage on this gun because you enjoy using this gun, or you're going to get more health. Or it's very, very straightforward, and there's a very defined like. Dead Space is broken up into chapters. Metroid Prime is broken up into, distinct objectives. Resident Evil 4 has its areas, and I think people are craving that sort of structure from games today, and single player games have like not been that for a very long time. So it was an interesting observation, and I do agree because like playing through Dead Space, I finished it in like 10 hours, and I was like, wow, that was good. That was like a really not like tightly paced adventure that went on for as long as it should have. It escalated with the right amount of intensity, and I really, really enjoyed it. This remake does lean more towards like the actiony aspects of. It's made the first game far more action heavy than it used to be. And I think that's because they've got this like AI director similar to like Left 4 Dead, working in the background that kind of ramps up the intensity dynamically. So sometimes enemies will just fucking appear out of nowhere, and you're just like, I was not prepared for this, and oh god, and where's all my ammo? So I was constantly struggling for ammo, which is how a survival horror should be. But it does feel very overwhelming all the time, which can maybe wear down on you if you're not like ready for that. It looks gorgeous, like really beautiful reimagining of the game, and I think a lot of the modern technology gives it a sort of feel that the original could never capture. Like it's actually dark, the lighting adds a lot to it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the game is the same as it's dismember enemies, and
survive,
stay alive. And I think that's just such a potent mechanic. I can't think of a horror game that has done something as smart since. It kind of makes the last boss a real bummer though, because the last boss is like not that. The last boss is like, look at all these glowy bits on me, shoot these.
Yeah.
With like extreme accuracy. Like
goes the Resident Evil route. It's like aim for the glowy bits. Yeah.
And it demands like accuracy in a way that the game just doesn't. Like, because the enemy is so large and so far away from you, it immediately rules out like half the weapons you have. And it's like, this sucks. Because what if I got here with very little ammo for the weapons that I do need, you know? That last boss, it was bad in the original. It's bad in the remake still. It's like, so I guess it's faithful. It's just a bad boss fight.
I do think my 2 cents, because I do want to get to the game at some point when I'm done with my own backlog. But I think this is also an interesting game because I'd argue it almost set the precedent or was a good foundation for modern day games that have very clean or non-existent UIs.
Yes, absolutely.
Even like if you don't know, in Dead Space, there's no HUD really. It's everything happens on screen. So like your health bar is on the back of your suit, which is like such a small touch, but it's so clever. Like
your ammo counter only appears when you're aiming down the sight.
Yeah, like it adds to that immersion. And I think a lot of modern day games, it is like if there's a HUD, you immediately like, oof, like how do I put this off, or how do I make it less overbearing? I think Dead Space
I also think a lot of games learned the wrong lessons from that.
I know.
They were like, let's just remove the HUD.
And you're like, I don't know what's going on.
No, exactly. It's like, no, I don't have all the info I need right now. Like, Dead Space is minimalist without impacting the player. Like, it's very, very smart. Like, only seeing your ammo when you aim down the sights is smart because it's like, you're constantly kept unaware of what you have, but it's very easy to see it at a glance. Like, your health is always on screen. There's that little bar that shows your stasis meter as well, always on screen. So yeah, I agree. But then you get there were a lot of games that came out after that were like, oh yeah, this is how HUDs work now. And it's like, you are not surfacing the information in a clear way. You know, like Isaac's health is clear because his suit is brown and black and his health is blue. Like it is very easy to tell what is there. But then some other games are like, yeah, this suit is blue and your health is blue. And it's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. So yeah, there's a lot of accessibility options because I don't know for a fact, but I assume at the time the original didn't really have that. So people with
I'm sure that like
difficulty with colorblind options and stuff, that's all here now. So I guess it's a far more accessible way to play Dead Space as well. And I recall seeing a lot of talk of that when the game released. It was like, oh, I can finally play Dead Space now because it's got X, Y, and Z. So that's great.
That's cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's a great game, and I fully expect them to remake the other two now. I think 2 is the one that needs least work because that game is just
good.
I would say near perfect start to finish. It is just a phenomenal fucking game. The 3rd one is the one that needs a lot of work. And I'd be curious to see what they do there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for you to play it because I think having not played the original in a long time, are going to have a great time with it.
Very little memory of the original, so it's going to feel like a brand new game. And funny enough, Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to be the same thing where I played the original a long time ago. So it's going to be difficult to tell the difference between like, this is a new thing or no, this was, something from the original game reimagined.
Can I tell you a secret? Never finished Resident Evil 4. Never finished it. Furthest I got was the castle with the weird, creepy Napoleon dude.
But Resident Evil 4 is a deceivingly long game, actually. For a single-player game, it's actually very, very long. Not a bad thing.
And I've heard this remake is long. Yeah. Like, it can take anywhere from 15 to 20 hours. I'm like, that's a lot of Resident Evil. So considering 3, I finished in 4 hours. Like that.
Yeah, not really. Resident Evil 4 is so good.
Yeah, I'm keen. I tried to play it. I just tried to play it like so long after the fact that it just felt bad. Like by the time I was playing it, that control scheme was so weird. And I've played that opening village section multiple times.
400
It's
times.
very fun. Yeah, so good.
Tune back in next week when we'll both have thoughts on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.